Carl, you're back open. He wants to give you a comment or whatever. So go ahead, John. Go for it.
Well, when he's saying that you've got to have some legal relationship, and that's true, but I guarantee you, before they send any legal process to enforce a tax liability, income tax liability, they have got something that they consider as legal evidence that you have filed a Form 1040 return. And that Form 1040 return is a contract. And a contract is certainly a legal obligation.
Okay.
Now, if you go to Murray's Lessee, the Supreme Court says that this process in revenue matters varies widely from the usual course of the common law on other subjects. Now, this is a common law process, but it varies widely from the usual course of the common law on other subjects. And the only thing that anybody in this country has ever been taught about the common law is the common law on the other subjects. And if you think you're going to apply that to the common law and the revenue actions, you got another thought coming.
If you reduced your status to that of being a slave, whose fault is that other than your own?
Well, it's nobody's. But if they make the accusation that you are, and they've got legal evidence that you are, then whose fault is it to know how to contest it?
What you do is you go back with your confession and avoidance, and you explain to them, I'm sorry, I made an error, I entered into a contract with you, and I now rescind or revoke any claim upon that contract.
Certainly. If you know enough to do it, and when to do it, and how to do it, that should work. That should stop. Got no contention there. But the fact is, now, the other thing, see, when you're talking about all caps and that stuff.
Yeah, that's nonsense. I don't waste my time. That's always...
Go look in Black's Law Dictionary. Go look in Black's Law Dictionary. You're going to find out that name is very important in any contract.
My own dictionary, so my own source and my own words, so I don't care what some man named Black wrote.
Yeah, well, you obviously don't hear
what happens, Carl? What happens when they bring an action on John Doe or Jane Roe?
To jail if you take that guy's attitude.
I'd love it.
The government all the time, if they don't know who the particular individual is that has done a crime or done some action, they file an action against John Doe. Now, that might be you, or it might be, George Bush. They don't know who the individual is yet, but they just put on there John Doe.
Okay.
Now, in the law, we're all a bunch of schizophrenics. You got many personas in the law. Now, and the persona that they're coming after you against is a income tax payer. And if you're not the income tax payer, you're not the person. But you see, very, very few people in the patriot community have any idea of what the term person means. And no law is ever written for an individual or for a man or a woman. They don't write laws for them. They don't write laws for corporations. You show me any law that is written for a man or a woman or a human being or a corporation. They don't
All right,
exist.
I'll show you one. It's called 1040 form, Individual Income Tax Form. Now, when you look on that, it has an OMB number, and that OMB number has a very specific, definite purpose, and that is declared and actually published in the archives and the records. It can only be used for collecting information on that purpose. Now, you write them a letter, and you tell them, look, I'm just a regular John Doe citizen. I live down on the block as a regular person under the common law, and I need to just get a regular 1040 form. The first one they're going to send you is going to have an OMB number on it that says that you are having foreign earned income. You write them back and you say, look, I don't have any foreign earned income. I don't do business in foreign banks. I don't even leave the country. I can't fill this out under penalty of perjury because it has an OMB number of this on it. And that OMB number means that I am a foreign party involved in this particular contract, and I am not. Now, could you please help me? Could you send me the correct form? I just want the regular 1040 form. The next one you get says that you are an officer of government and you reside in the District of Columbia, and that you are a corporate entity, and that you are a party by that privileged entity. You write them back. Again, please, I have to sign this under penalty of perjury. Could you please help me? I just need to have the regular 1040 form. Just send me the regular one. I don't need these fancy ones. I'm not a party to any of these. I got to sign this under penalty of perjury. The next letter you get from the IRS is going to say, go away. Don't call me no more. Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. Go away. That's because there's only 2 forms, and none of them apply to you, an individual citizen. They only apply to privileged entities. Now,
So
once you pick up on that, and you try that, you will find out they don't want to talk to you no more. Why? Because you understand the fact that you're not any of those parties that's a party to the contract, and they have no jurisdiction to come talk to you. And the burden is on them to prove the jurisdiction under Title V, Section 556B as in David, where it says the proponent of a rule or order has the entire burden of proof of all claims made. They have the burden to prove it. And the law is supposed to be interpreted in favor of you, the clearly intended and explicitly designated beneficiary. That's Byers v. United States, 273 U.S. 28, which says you have a right to be wrong, but if you believe you're right, guess what? They got to listen. That's Cohen v. Virginia, 6V21821, which says the law shall be interpreted to include every word, every phrase, every syllable, to include the punctuation, to include the intent of the lawmaker.
Yeah, I got no question, no argument with all that. But when you get back to the fact to start with, when you say that it's written to individuals, it's an individual income tax return, that's right. But in the Internal Revenue Code, the tax in Section 1 is imposed upon persons. That is upon any person. And when you go to the definitions in Section 7701 and A, and they're defining person, they define person to be an individual.
Bingo.
Now, what is a person? What is a person? A person is an entity to whom the law ascribes rights and duties. And if a law has not ascribed to you a human being or an artificial person as a corporation, if a particular law or system of law has not ascribed to you rights or duties, or not imputed to you rights and duties, you are not a person within the purview of that law.
Bingo.
And so all you're saying, when you go back and say, send me a regular Form 1040, there isn't any regular 1040 like you're talking about,
right.
And they know it. The only thing the Form 1040 pertains to, as we mentioned earlier in the first 2 hours of the show, is the only way you acquire a liability to the income tax is, number one, you participate in a government-granted privilege to which the tax liability to the income tax is a condition for the privilege, such as corporations or working for the government. Your second one is you would go through there. Okay, and if you're not that, then if you voluntarily sign a Form 1040 and acknowledge the tax, then you have voluntarily obligated yourself to the tax.
That's
and that's
correct.
what they rely upon.
That's correct.
And so when you're talking about a person, if you have not participated in any government-granted privilege, or you have not legally obligated yourself to the tax by filing a Form 1040, you are not a person within the purview of the law.
So does it apply to you? Does it apply to you?
Of course not, because it doesn't. You haven't taken an obligation upon yourself. Now, as far as foreign earned income does not mean what you think it means. You go back to the English law, and the taxes under the ancient common law, and let me preface this by Dwight Avis, who was the former head of the alcohol tobacco division of the previous Internal Revenue Bureau, and when they were holding hearings in 1953 in the House Ways and Means Committee to reorganize, and they established then the Internal Revenue Service, he testified to Congress that your income tax is 100% voluntary, and your alcohol tax is 100% mandatory.
Right.
And they're very different, and the rules and the regulations pertaining to them are very different. Okay, now the 100% mandatory taxes, if you go back in the history of the revenue laws, was the ancient taxes under the ancient common law. But under the common law, real property, when William the Conqueror conquered England, it was an agrarian society. Wealth came from the land. Personal property was of such insignificance they didn't even consider taxing it. But along comes the Industrial Revolution, and the invention of the navigation equipment that enabled England to become a great commercial power and trading power upon the seas. And suddenly, these little old commoners there that started using these industrial things to make money, they become worth a lot more money, and the personal property become of a lot more value than the real property. So they had to come up with a means of taxing it. And the way they came up with the means of taxing it was they said, oh, well, these commercial activities, they are going to be grants of the king, and we're going to tax the revenues that are made off from them. And then they came along and established whatever income that you earn off that, you're going to have to file a surety bond to ensure that you pay the tax on it. And they did that by taking the old commercial statute staple contract, which was a surety bond, and making that what they had to file to guarantee that they were going to get their revenue. But that revenue, under the common law, the ancient common law, was known as the certain revenue because they knew how much it would be. Every parcel of land had a fixed fee on it. They knew what that was going to bring in. But the other revenue they didn't know. And they classified that, guess what, as foreign earned income. It didn't mean it was earned in a foreign country. It meant that it was foreign to the ancient common law.
Would you agree with me?
That's what foreign earned means in the sense of the old 25-55 return of foreign earned income. It's anything that isn't under the ancient common law. And what you earn from your personal labor, if you're not employed by the government, is foreign earned income.
All I'm saying is this conversation started extremely simple. All you basically said to me is if somebody gets a letter in the mail saying the IRS claims blah, 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 and I say to these folks, just say, I believe there's no standing obligation attached to my person to comply with such orders. Please show me.
You agree. That's right.
No, I have seen
people, when they got that letter, that about our taxes or records show we haven't received your Form 1040, just right on there with a felt tip and I don't know this. They get back a letter from the IRS.
No.
Based upon the information you have provided, you're one not required to file a return.
I would never say that. No. I would accept their offer, but I'd say I believe there's no outstanding obligation.
Can you make out what he's saying?
I said I believe there's no.
Carl, you're breaking up real bad.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't understand what he was saying there.
All I was trying to say is when the IRS asks you something, it's like you need to say, I believe there's no outstanding obligation attached to my person to comply with such demands.